Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking some really fascinating fragments from a narrative called the Ash of Pelravan,
Right.
and we're going to treat them like historical documents.
Yeah.
Our mission, really, is to map out this world, the politics, the religion, the just the raw geography of what it's like to live on the absolute edge.
It's a great way to approach it because these excerpts, they just immediately throw you into this world that feels fractured by, I guess, indifference.
Yeah, indifference is the word.
We're basically pulling out what we can learn about this frontier where, religious fanaticism is tied to state power, where your real identity could get you killed, and the government's official policy is, well, it's basically abandonment.
Calculated abandonment. And that all starts with the setting itself. Sarian, our narrator, he's living in the shadow of the Pelravan Mountains. They call it the barrier of the world.
And that name tells you pretty much everything you need to know, doesn't it? The environment is an antagonist right from page 1. The sources describe this feeling of an eternal, indifferent cold. The sun is orange, which is interesting, but it gives off no real warmth.
Yet life, it still hangs on, this sort of pale, persistent green in the trees. It sets a tone of resilience, I think.
It has to. You have to be resilient to survive there.
Okay, so let's try to pin this place on a map. Sarian's home is in a deep gorge, lots of forests and rivers, and it's in the southern lands of a place called Danar.
Right, and Danar, you might think it's a big, powerful kingdom, but it's not. It's the Federation's edge.
The edge, so it's the last stop.
It's the last civilized stop, or at least the last one that thinks of itself as civilized. And if you go further south, past that mountain barrier, you hit the Cloud Kingdom.
Which is just described as a place of unknown and peril. That's it.
The vagueness is what's so chilling. It's not just far away. It's like the powers that be don't even care enough to find out what's there.
Total geopolitical disinterest.
Exactly. And that unknown threat forces the people there to cluster together, right? In these little wooden villages clinging to the ridges.
And Sarian points out this sad irony. The locals, they think the forest means safety.
Yeah, that the wilderness is their friend.
But he sees it for what it is.
Yeah.
He calls them fragile creatures, and the forest is just fuel waiting for a spark.
Yeah.
Their sense of safety is a total illusion.
And that illusion, that fragility, it leads us right to the central political failure of this world. This whole border region is called Saudheim.
Right, Saudheim.
And the documents are, they're a clear indictment of the central government, the power that's supposed to be protecting these people.
We hear about the Eagle's soldiers. These are Aquila's forces. But they're not on the frontier.
No, absolutely not. The text is very clear. They prefer the warm halls and sunlit lands of Danar. They don't want to be in the cold, dangerous borderlands of Saudheim.
So it's not just that they're stretched thin. It's a choice.
It's more than a choice. It's policy. Intervention was actually forbidden.
Forbidden? Okay, we have to stop on that. Why would you forbid your army from protecting your own border? That seems counterintuitive.
Well, think about it from the perspective of Aquila, the central power. What's the return on investment in Saudheim? It's freezing, it's dangerous, the taxes are probably minimal.
It's a resource drain.
It's a massive resource drain. So by forbidding official intervention and just, waiting for volunteers who always show up too late, they're making a core calculation.
They're prioritizing the core over the periphery. The warm halls matter more than the people freezing on the frontier.
The frontier is disposable,
Yeah.
and that makes the people of Saudheim completely, utterly vulnerable. So when the raids finally come, it's not the system failing.
It's the system working as designed.
Exactly. And that institutional indifference is the perfect backdrop for Sarian's personal crisis, which is all about his identity.
Right, so let's get into that, because he's living this incredibly dangerous double life. He's a half-elf.
In a world where, officially, half-elves no longer exist.
And the performance he has to maintain is it's constant. It's all about hiding his pointy ears, of course. But it's more than that.
Oh, much more. He has to act human. He fakes head illnesses, he shivers more than he needs to. He's trying to mimic their fragility so he doesn't stand out as being too resilient.
Too elven.
Exactly. Any hint of that would give him away.
And giving himself away means one thing.
The pyre. He says it himself. His features alone would have him burned alive by the dominant power here, the Exarchy.
Okay, so the Exarchs. The text says they're the most faithful servants of Aquila. And their symbol is the burnt eagle.
And this is so important. They're not some weird little cult out in the woods. This is the state religion.
Right.
It is fully sanctioned intolerance.
So Aquila is the political power, but the Exarchy is the ideological enforcement arm.
You got it. The soldiers won't come to the cold, but the exarch's ideology is everywhere. They provide the glue that holds the system together, and that glue is fear, the fear of the pyre.
And their whole dogma is built on this idea of purity, which means things like elves and half-elves have to be, well, officially erased from history.
And that lie is incredibly successful. Sarian mentions that even merchants from way out in Helva Quintus,
That's the White Marble City, right, in the kingdom of Farlandor.
the very one, a completely different kingdom, far away, and even they believe the lie. They repeat the line that the elves disappeared more than a couple of centuries ago.
So the propaganda works. It's a universally accepted fact.
It shows you how powerful and unified this ideology is. To get that idea spread that far and wide, that takes a sophisticated system.
Which makes the one place he was safe, the monastery, all the more important.
It was his sanctuary. It was the one little crack in this wall of intolerance.
Why? What made it different?
So the monks there, they worshiped the one God, but, and this is the key, they rejected the exarch's cruel ways and their cult of the burnt eagle.
Ah, so it's a theological disagreement with practical consequences.
Huge consequences. They weren't staging a rebellion against the state. They were condemning the methods of the state religion. And that created this tiny bubble of tolerance.
A bubble that was just big enough for a half-elf to grow up in without being discovered.
It was his home, his school, his political asylum, in a way. So when that monastery is lost, his entire world collapses. Not just his home, but his shield.
And it is lost in the most dramatic way possible. He sees it burning, with hungry flames scarring stone and devouring wood.
And this is where the narrative does something brilliant. It sets up this huge, cosmic, apocalyptic fear, and then completely undercuts it with a grim reality.
Let's talk about the rumors first.
Yeah.
The big fear. It all started when the second sun fell and the sky went dark.
I mean, that's a proper end-of-the-world level event. And the rumors that follow are just as epic.
The peaks of Pelravan are vomiting fire.
A fragment of a fallen star hits Avelraan.
And Avelraan is described as, what, the farthest land known. A place of dread.
Right. And the prophecy was specific. Monsters were foretold to come from there. This is the ultimate external evil. It's cosmic horror. It's something you can't fight.
And for the people living in these tiny villages, that's almost a comfort, isn't it? If you're going to be destroyed, you want it to be by something immense, something from a fallen star.
Of course, it makes the tragedy feel grand, unavoidable. It absolves everyone of responsibility. We didn't fail. The stars fell.
But Sarian is standing right there. He sees the truth, and it's not monsters from Avelraan.
No. It's so much worse, in a way. The attackers were just savage humans and half-breeds.
Local.
Coming down from the mountains right next to them. Desperate people who burned everything they couldn't eat or carry.
The huge, terrifying prophecy is just, it's smoke. The real cause is mundane, it's poverty, it's desperation.
It connects everything back. The indifference of Aquila creates a power vacuum in Satheim. That neglect allows desperation and savagery to fester in the mountains, and those desperate people become the monsters who raid the villages.
So the real evil wasn't a fallen star from some distant land. It was bred by the system's own apathy.
The greatest threat wasn't inevitable, it was entirely preventable. And that is a much harder truth to swallow.
And as Sarian looks at the wreckage, the aftermath is so telling. There are no bodies of monks inside.
Which means they either fled or were taken. But there are bodies in the village below. The fragile creatures paid the price.
And this hits Sarian hard. He feels this profound guilt.
But it's a specific kind of guilt, isn't it? It's not because he was away. It's the guilt of powerlessness. He was there, he saw it, but he couldn't do a single thing to stop it.
And that realization, I think, is what changes him. He now fully understands the chain of cause and effect. He sees how the big abstract system—
This thing he calls humanity with a capital H.
Right, how that system creates the conditions for the small, desperate humans, lowercase h, to commit these atrocities.
Which leads to that incredible line, his final thought as he looks at the ruins.
Humanity, or humans. One will eventually erase the other.
And that's the core of it all, isn't it? Humanity is the system. The Exarchy, Aquila, the indifferent kingdoms. It's the ideology, the cold, rigid structure.
And humans are just the people on the ground. The
Yep.
villagers, the raiders, Sarian, everyone just trying to survive the consequences of that system.
He realizes the system itself is the existential threat. Its cruelty, its indifference is ultimately more destructive than any one band of raiders.
And he's already been erased by that system as a half-elf. Now he's seen what it does to its own people.
So he leaves. He walks away from the one place that ever offered him any kind of tolerance, and he's leaving with, well, with knowledge.
He's not leaving with a magic sword. He's leaving with a clear-eyed understanding of the politics. He knows who the players are: Akola, the Exarchy, Farlandor.
And more importantly, he understands the gap between the grand cosmic fears everyone worries about and the simple, grubby, preventable violence that actually ruined his life.
The knowledge he has now is intensely practical. His problem isn't monsters from a fallen star. His problem is the codified neglect of Saudheim.
That's the real enemy.
Which brings us to our final, provocative thought for you. Sarian is now driven by this guilt of powerlessness. He wants the power to challenge humanity, the system that abandoned him. But the only effective power he just witnessed was the raw, brutal savagery of the Mountain Raiders. So does he now have to embrace that same kind of mundane violence, that same morality-free desperation, to gain the strength he needs to fight the very system that created it? That's a dark path to be starting on.